So this weekend we're having our financial management for end times, and what I'd like to do is I'm taking my thoughts, obviously because it's Sabbath time. I'm taking my thoughts from Adventist Home, and there's a number of good counsel there on finances, budget, household income, business principles, and then on Sunday we can do some non-Sabbath talks, dealing directly with what we covered last time, looking at risk, looking at business ideas, looking at mortgages, loans, insurance, those kind of questions, and where to put our money and where to save, those practical things. So taking my thoughts from Adventist Home, and tonight we're looking at the principle of stewards of God, and we're looking at chapter 60. Everyone there? Chapter 60. Chapter 60. And page 368. Yeah, Adventist Home 368. And we're going to be looking at chapter 60 through to 65. We can look at those chapters.
What page is that?
368. And as we read through, if you've got a question or if you've got something you want to share, then we can deal with that. And then what we'll do as well on tomorrow evening we'll have a Q&A, and then on Sunday we'll have a Q&A as well. Okay, we're all there? Stewards of God. We are to recognize God's ownership. So everything that we have, everything that we own, everything that we do is God's. That which lies at the foundation of business integrity and of true success is the recognition of God's ownership. There's nothing that we have on this earth or this world that is ours. The creator of all things, he is the original proprietor, which means he's the boss. We are his servants, we are his stewards. All that we have is a trust from him to be used according to his direction. This is an obligation that rests upon every human being. It has to do with the whole sphere of human activity. Whether we recognize it or not, we are stewards, supplied from God with talents and facilities, and placed in the world to do a work appointed by him. Money is not ours. Houses and grounds, pictures and furniture, garments and luxuries do not belong to us. We are pilgrims. We are strangers. We have only a grant of those things that are necessary for health and life. Our temporal blessings are given us in trust. So God trusts us with these possessions.
Chapter you said, sorry?
It's chapter 60, page 368. 368. So our temporal blessings, 368.
367.
Our temporal blessings are given us in trust to prove whether we can be entrusted with eternal riches. So God trusts us with treasures here, and if he can trust us here, then he knows he can trust us with those eternal riches. If we endure the proving of God, then we shall receive that purchased possession, which is to be our own glory, honor, and immortality. We must give an account. If our people would only put into the cause of God the money that has been lent them in trust, that portion which they spend in selfish gratification, in idolatry, they would lay up treasure in heaven and would be doing the very work God requires them to do. But like the rich man in the parable, they live sumptuously. The money God has lent them in trust to be used to his name and glory, they spend. And when they spend it extravagantly. So God gives us means, And we need to give an account. What are we going to do with that money? Do we live it up? Do we live a luxurious lifestyle? Are we going on flashy holidays? Do we go to fancy restaurants? Are we driving fancy cars? Going fancy houses? And this is where it's all extravagant. When we eat, do we eat the dainties all the time? Okay? So God is holding an account of us, how we are living. They do not stop to consider their accountability to God. They do not stop to consider that there is to be a reckoning day not far hence, when they must give an account of their stewardship. So we have to give an account of our stewardship, how we've spent our money.
Which what was the reference?
Adventist Home, chapter 60. We're on page 368
How we spend God's money, not our money.
Yeah. The money that God gives to us. So when you're out and about, how often do you eat out in restaurants? How often do you go out on extravagant tours? Or how often do you go out going expensive shopping? And these are the kind of things that we need to think about.
Expensive shopping now.
Especially if we can't afford these things. That's a key thing. We should ever remember that in the judgment we must meet the record of the way we use God's money. Much is spent in self-pleasing, self-gratification. That does us no real good, but positive injury. If we realize that God is the giver of all good things, that the money is His, then we shall exercise wisdom in its expenditure, conforming to His holy will. The world, its customs, its fashions, will not be our standard. We shall not have a desire to conform to its practices. We shall not permit our own inclinations to control us. What's helpful is, when we spend money, do we ask God? Do we consult with Him? Do we have permission to spend this money? That's something that we can use to filter our spending habits. Do we need it? Do I need to buy this? And another principle I always use is return on investment. If I'm going to spend this money, what is my return on investment back?
What does it mean?
Return on investment. It means a return.
Or what are you going to get from it?
What am I going to get back from it? With interest. So if I'm buying a certain food,
Interest.
yeah, of course, that's what it means, return on investment.
Benefit your body. Things like
That's why you put
You mean, I didn't.
in everything. That's why you put money into a bank account. You get interest back. That's why you put an investment. So return on investment is I put money into something. What am I going to get back as a return? So when I'm going shopping, I think about, do I need this? And if I buy this, what's my return on investment? When I go food shopping and I'm looking at food, what's my return on investment? Is this food going to be helpful to me? Is it going to be beneficial to me? So we're going to look at those and overriding, can I afford it? We should ever remember that in the judgment we must meet the record of the way we use God's money. Much is spent in self-pleasing, self-gratification that does us no real good, but positive injury. If we realize that God is the giver of all good things, that the money is His, then we shall exercise wisdom in its expenditure, conforming to His holy will. The world, its customs, its fashions, will not be our standard. We shall not have a desire to conform to its practices. We shall not permit our own inclination to control us.
Sorry, where you reading from?
I just went over that paragraph.
368.1.
368.1.
Yes.
You just went
In our use of money, we can make it an agent of spiritual improvement by regarding it as a sacred trust, not to be employed to administer to pride, vanity, appetite, or passion. And sometimes what happens, when let's talk about food. What tends to happen if we eat out in a restaurant or we eat out somewhere, that's the equivalent, or can be the equivalent of 1 week shopping, even at Tesco's or Asda. And what we do is, and this has happened so many times, we say, oh, let's all have a kind of social, or let's have a get together, and then we'll go out some expensive place, we'll spend the money, and then we find 2 days later or 3 days later, actually I'm short of money to pay my bills. And then what happens then? Oh, I need a loan. Oh, I need some financial help. Because actually, I just blew 25, 30 pounds on the restaurant, the trip, the whole thing, drinks, everything. And then I realised 2 days later, I don't have enough money to pay the bills. Can I borrow £50 or £100, whatever it is? Okay, and that's not how it should be. We should strictly live within our means. Now, if you can afford to spend £30, then you can afford to spend £30 at the restaurant, and then you just give an account to God if He's happy with that situation.
I think you'll be happy with that unless you really are planting seeds in people's hearts while you're eating.
I was shown that the recording angel makes a faithful record of every offering dedicated to God and put into the treasury, and also of the final results of the means thus bestowed. The eye of God takes cognizance of every farthing devoted to His cause, and of the willingness or reluctance of the giver. The motive in giving is also chronicled. Alright, so are we just giving money because everyone's looking? Right? Or are we giving money in response to a heartfelt need of the work that needs to be carried forward?
Like the widow's mite.
I remember when I was young, I had an uncle, and when we were at the temple, he, you give kind of like an offering, and you give him money, to the priest. And what my uncle would do, he would just like walk up and he'll fling out like a £20 note so everyone can see it. And he'd walk like this with a kind of smile, and he'd put it there. He's letting everyone know that he's got the money and he's putting it there.
Huh? Isn't it? That's equivalent to
Yeah,
£50.
yeah. It was £20 back then. Was quite a bit of money. Well, he never did. Whereas my dad, he'll do it discreetly. He just kind of just put it there, and so no one knows how much he's put in. And he'd give me £1, go and put the £1. But God doesn't honour that kind of showmanship, that kind of offering. Systematic giving for the family. Let every one of you lay by him in store, as God hath prospered him. Every member of the family, from the oldest down to the youngest, may take part in this work of benevolence. The plan of systematic benevolence, so the note references here is made to the plans followed early by the church in laying aside weekly the tithes and offerings, will prove a safeguard to every family against temptations to spend means for needless things, and especially will it prove a blessing to the rich by guarding them from indulging in extravagances. Now, again, it's important, I bring it up, living within your means. Let me write that down.
Living within God's means.
Last time we chatted, we looked at some of the areas of obligation, okay? And what tends to happen is we think that we can get away with things, and we think it's Christian to do so, but we have obligations, okay, to our creditors. And so what happens then is if we've got obligations to our creditors, we should not get into debt.
Don't owe them any money.
We should not owe them any money. And probably for most of us, our number one creditor, okay, is probably your landlord. Or if you have a mortgage, is your mortgage. Amen. Okay? You should always make sure you're better off starving than paying off your landlord, paying off those debts. Okay? And the last thing you want to be spending money on in that situation, alright, I'll stick here, is your food. Okay? Your food will have to suffer.
What?
Yes?
So how will you be able to...
Because, no, you pay your creditors. Okay? You pay your creditors first, and what you got left over, you live within your means. And if all you got left over is all you can get is porridge, then you just eat porridge until your circumstances change.
Because if you don't pay your landlord, you're going to be homeless.
You're going to be homeless. And I think I've discussed this. It's better to be in a house and have little food than to have all the food and be homeless.
But the Spirit of prophecy does say that some will even lose their places.
And then thirdly,
their faith. So it's obviously the people who are paying rent.
the ultimate thing that should suffer is your travel. Okay, think twice before you travel anywhere. You know, where we live, our nearest shop is 18 miles away. Okay, it's not like, oh, you know what, we run out of soy milk, let's go pop out 18 miles there, 18 miles, 36 miles round trip just to get something. So when we go out shopping, we go with a purpose. Now, fortunately, where I work, I pass a supermarket, so I can, you know, if I wanted every day, I could pop into the supermarket, see what things are reduced, see what things are on sale. Or Emma can call me and say, you know what, I need some shopping. Okay, and I can stop by. In other words, I don't have to make special trips to go shopping. But what we do is, oh, you know what, I fancy something, and then we go all the way there. Or let's go do a social. If you are tight on your money, all right, you just cut your socials out. Don't go, oh, you know what, I'm going to go visit a friend. Or let me go visit this place. Let me go travel 200 miles to go see someone. If you cannot afford it, don't think, oh, you know, God's going to bless. The only thing you should ever consider traveling is probably camp meeting. And what you should do, you should save some money aside for that. And if you can't afford to go camp, don't go. Watch the video. Stay home. In other words, you pay whoever your creditors are first. Okay? Landlord, mortgage, loans. As Adventists, as Christians, we should not have bad credit. We shouldn't have bad credit. We may have had bad credit in our past, okay? But as Adventists and Christians, we should have a good credit score. Because what we should be doing
very bad credit score, and I've never had anyone any money apart from you.
Because what we've got to do is we pay our creditors first. Alright? Then food. Alright? You cut back on your food. And you cut back on your travel. In fact, I'll put that. That's 2, that's 3. Alright? You cut back on all your travel, and then what's left over, you use your food. Okay?
So where does the utilities also come in there after the landlord?
Bills, all that.
Oh.
As Adventists, should we be having loans as well, should we? Because I don't feel that we should be having credit anyway.
In principle, all right. In principle, it's not bad to have credit, okay, if you can afford to pay it back. And the reason why you've taken credit, so if you sometimes you need to take credit to buy a car, okay. You definitely need credit to buy a house. So there are some things that you need to get credit to do things, okay?
Yeah, but we're not supposed to, when they brought in that new system, we were meant to take mortgages out to buy houses. We're not supposed to get into debt. So all this credit system is just a satanic snare to, because they've oppressed
credit has always
to such an extent that they're trying to hold off the violence as long as
credit
they can.
Credit has always been in history. In the Bible talks about putting the money to the usuries, okay? In other words, taking credit is not evil or wrong in itself. Taking credit becomes a problem, alright, if you cannot afford to take that credit, or you're taking that credit because of bad financial management. Okay, it's as simple as that. You've got two types of credit. I'll class that as good, alright, and I'll class that as bad. Bad credit is when you cannot live within your means.
Where does covetous come into that as well?
Well, that's the bad credit.
Yeah.
Well, covetous is slightly different, okay? Covetous is when you covet something, so what you do, you'll spend to get it. You know what? Oh, he's got a nice car, so I'm going to get a nice car. You know what? He's got a nice jacket, so I'm going to get a nice jacket. Or that's a nice pair of shoes, I'm going to get a nice pair of shoes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think credit plays a role. Sometimes we don't appreciate. You know, like if you want to get like an internet, you need to go through a credit check, and they send you the whatever the router or whatever in credit because you haven't paid for it yet. You pay for it over the course. So even getting a mobile insurance, car insurance as well, because you can't drive without insurance. I can't just say, okay, I'm not taking credit, I'm not going to get insurance, but it's the same with insurance.
Yeah. Even
some jobs, you know, you need to pass a credit check to be able to work there.
Yeah, you do.
You know, so it's
some jobs, you have to pass a credit check to work in it.
Yes, but if it's like a money job or a banking job, or you're gonna know, well, if you can't manage your own finances, how can you manage someone else's finances? So, just before we just open this out, bad credit is when you get into so much financial trouble, you've had so much financial mismanagement that now you have to get a loan. So you're getting a loan to pay off your landlord, to pay off your bills and whatever. So you're basically in one credit to pay off another credit. Or like a credit card, we overspend on our credit cards and then we've got a big balance at the end of the month we can't pay. That's because you're not living within your means. Okay.
Is that what it says there?
Live within means, yeah. Or in other words, it's because you're not living within means. Let me put that, not living within means. That's not good, is it? That's bad credit. Okay. If you can't afford things, if you can't afford heating bills, you put 15 layers on. Okay, simple as that. You do it until your circumstances change. Okay, let's.
Do they change? Praise the Lord for that.
Let's open this up. Dear Lord and Father, we thank you, Lord, for this Sabbath day. Father, please forgive us for our sins. Forgive us, Lord, for our mismanagement of money. And we ask, dear Lord, that you just bless us now, enlighten us, help us, Lord, to turn around our circumstances. Help us, Lord, to be faithful in this area, is our prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen. So we have this bad credit, okay? To turn around and say all credit is bad or satanic, it's not correct. However, when you do get into credit, when you do get into a system of loan, you now become, to a certain extent, you now become their slave. Alright? So what we have an obligation to do is if we are in debt or credit, alright, then what we need to do, we need to do all we can to clear it. Then we have good credit. Good credit, okay, is where we're taking the loan or we're taking money, okay, to invest. Okay, it could be invest in a house, so it could be a mortgage, or to invest in a business. Okay, so we need it to get the business. We may need to get credit to get a car. Okay, and we need that car to get to work. So that's not a bad credit. It's a credit that enables us to actually generate an income, all right, to better our circumstances. So you cannot just say all credit is bad. But when you are in credit, you now have a master over you. So what we want to do, we want to make sure then that we first of all make sure we keep up with our payments, and where we can, we make extra payments. Okay? So we make extra payments on those credits. If you've got a mortgage, make extra payments. Okay? If you've got loans and bills, make extra payments. So, I mean, generally what I do with my bills on a direct debit, so I pay a fixed amount each month. Okay? And then at the end of the year, they look at how much I've paid, they look at how much I've used, and then they work out the difference, and then they adjust it in the following year's direct debit. So I know that I'm not going to get into arrears. As long as I'm paying that direct debit, okay, at the end of the year, it's not going to be far off. In other words, I'm not going to have a massive bill, right? And if I do, it gets carried over, and my direct debits increase to do that. So that's generally a good way to do your bills. You fix it. Okay. If you've got loans, I would make extra payments. You make extra payments, you're going to save on the interest charges. If you've got a mortgage, make extra payments. You can save thousands of pounds okay, over the years of a mortgage by just making those extra payments.
If you increase the ability for companies to take more out on your direct debits, you need to especially watch them, because they do sometimes, especially on the elderly, they take too much out, and see if you spot it.
Well, what you should do sensibly with your money, you should be checking your bank statement every day. You know, check your bank every day. What's coming in, what's coming out, all right? Or any unusual activity, okay? When it comes to my bills, I know exactly what's coming out. It's already been pre-agreed, it's predetermined. Okay, so each month there's a fixed amount coming out to pay my electricity. Okay. So that's talking about debts and credits. Okay. Do not get yourself into circumstances where you live it up a bit, and then now you have to take a loan because you can't meet the bills at the end of the month, which is what we do, and that is reckless financial management. I mean, reckless. Okay. We can't be going off to restaurants and then can I have a loan 2 days later because I can't pay my landlord or I can't pay a bill that comes in. You pay your creditors, all right? You cut these travels. I'm going to put here cut travel, social, all right? And then I'm going to call this food normal shopping food, not restaurant shopping food. Every week, the demands of God upon each family are brought to mind by each of its members fully carrying out the plan, as they have denied themselves some superfluity in order to have means to put into the treasury. Lessons of value in self-denial for the glory of God have been impressed upon the heart. Once a week, each is brought face to face with the doings of the past week, the income that he might have had if he had been economical, and the means that he does not have because of indulgence. His conscience is reined up, as it were, before God, and either commends or accuses him. He learns that if he retains peace of mind and the favour of God, he must eat and drink and dress to his glory. All right. Now, I travelled a lot before, so when I'm travelling, I get hungry. Now I've got a choice. I can stop at the service station and I can get a vegetarian burger and fries, probably 2 vegetarian burgers and fries. And it's going to be like £7-8, okay, for a meal. And well, 2 of them is. If you have 2, it's filling, okay. So, or you get a veggie bean burger and fries or something, okay. Now that's £7 or £8, and it's gone in one meal. And I'm thinking, wow, that's actually quite a bit, okay. But then I can go into the same service station, and I can go into Marks and Spencer's and service station, and I can buy a loaf of bread for about £1.50. I can buy a tub of hummus for about £1.50. So I can buy a loaf of bread and hummus for £3. And that hummus and that loaf of bread, that bread's going to last me 3 days, and the hummus will probably last me 2 days, depending on how hungry I am. So in other words, for £3, I'm going to get 2 to 3 days worth of food out of it, compared to £8, where I'm just going to get 1 meal out of it. Okay, because every time I'd go out, I'd get the loaf. I'd probably have about 6-7 slices dipped into my hummus, and I'm bringing back at least half a loaf back home, and maybe a quarter of the hummus left over for the next day. So, but I can, if I wanted to, I could spend the £8 having the burger, and you know, I could probably afford to do that. But I choose not to, because I figured, you know what, it's just, I don't need to spend £8 on that stuff.
But what if somebody takes us out and spends a whole lot of money on the food?
If someone takes you out and treats you, and they can afford it, and they're living within their means, then say, thank you, Lord, for a nice, well, thank you, Lord, for a meal that's paid for. Okay? But don't go taking someone out for a meal, right, the whole gang, and then 3 days later realise, oh, I can't pay my bills, and then get a loan to do it. Then that's foolishness, that's folly. That's like the prodigal son, spending on his means. Okay?
But the people that say that loaf of bread's are not very good for you as well.
Yeah.
That's a
And so-
one-off.
Well, you
And
know,
that's my staple diet of bread and hummus.
you know what?
And,
Listen,
I get condemned for eating it, saying that's not good for you. Look at your belly, it's getting bigger. That's what they say. What can I do?
It's a different discussion.
we pray over our food, right? And we do the best. Okay, I'm not going to get into what they make the bread out of and stuff like that. You know, I'm going out to. I mean, you don't even know what's in the veggie stuff they put in, the veggie burgers and things like that. And also when you get takeaways, you don't know what to do, you know, behind the doors. So, you know, we eat, we drink, and we dress
Some better than others.
to His glory. Okay. I mean, generally, all right. When I go to a restaurant, I don't buy drinks. You know, I don't buy. Well, besides it's bad drinking with your meals. It's like extravagant cost to have a drink. You know, for one glass of juice, it's the same price as a whole carton. So I just don't do that. Plus, it's not good to drink with your meals anyway.
Amen.
So bear in mind, good and bad. And if you've got nice friends that take you out and treat you, then say praise God. Okay. Make God's there's another thing as well. What can happen is sometimes we can get social pressure. All right, even amongst Adventists, it's like, oh, it's a birthday party. We're all going to go down to the pizza place and get vegan pizzas, or we're going to go down to the Nines restaurant,
That type of people.
or we're going to go to this place. Okay, it's going to be about £15. It'll cost you £10 to get there, plus drinks. So you're looking at minimum £25. Let's all go out. You know, God likes us to have kind of socials together, and then you feel like a pressure. Right? Well, I'm going to miss out on the fellowship and whatever. And then what happens is you've just got a £25 hole in your budget. Okay? And you pay the price.
It's called lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God.
Make God's requirements first.
I don't want to.
God's requirements come first. We are not doing His will if we consecrate to Him what is left of our income after all our imaginary wants have been supplied. Before any part of our earnings is consumed, we should take out and present to Him that portion which He claims. If the old dispensation, an offering of gratitude was kept continually burning upon the altar, thus showing man's endless obligations to God. If we have prosperity in our secular business, it is because God blesses us. A part of His income is to be devoted to the poor, and a large portion to be applied to the cause of God. When that which God claims is rendered to Him, the remainder will be sanctified and blessed to our own use. But when a man robs God by withholding that which He requires, his curse rests upon the whole. So God is saying, you know, put Him first, and what you get left over, He will sanctify. And it's amazing, right, that the Adventist pound, all right, goes a lot further than the non-Adventist pound. In other words, an Adventist pound is only 90 pence. Alright? But it's more than a pound. Because you pay a tithe. You pay on your £1 you earn, you put 10 pence tithe. So really it's only 90p. But that 90p takes you more than what a pound would do in the first place. In other words, you'll find a deal, alright? You'll save money here. For example, I had a little bit of damage on my car, and it was just like a little oil sensor on the car, and it got busted when the car, in fact, Ruth was there when the car broke down. The recovery guy somehow he broke it, and then the next day I noticed my oil sensor light was on, so I blamed the garage. It's been snapped off, and they said it's £250 to buy the part, all right, plus another £80-90 labour. So I was looking at £350 to fix this little oil sensor. Okay, and I said not this time round. And then someone I know, he runs a garage, and so I got my car serviced. So I said, listen, I've got this thing here. Can you fix it? He goes, yeah, leave it with me. I'll look to see if there's a scrapyard that I have wrong or whatever. So what he did was he actually did a bit of legwork. He did some research, and he found an equivalent part on eBay. Okay, so it was he said this part will fit, and this has got two choices. One was like £30, another one was like £80, and,
So,
and,
no.
and you get one
Wow.
one quicker. And so he gave me the links and he said, you know, if you get one of these, order it, and then I'll fit it for you. So I clicked on the link, and actually it was £16, right? So I bought the part £16.
It's
Okay.
usually £5 postage over it.
It was £16 postage free,
Oh,
and it came, and then I went to go to the guy, all right.
You get
and
best more than everything.
he spent about, you know, he said it'd be about an hour's work, and then at the end of it I said how much do I owe you? And I was thinking it's gonna charge like £100 to do it. Right? He said, oh, just call it £30.
Wow.
So I got the car fixed
£30
for.
an hour is good.
I got the car fixed for £46 when the dealer was going to be charging me £300 to £350, right? And that's how little kind of things you can save, right? Even Leon, when he goes shopping, he finds these bargains, you know, £15 peanut butters for like £2, and what are they? God just directs you to those things, you know, and savings.
So what does it say here? It says, when that which God claims is rendered to him.
He's talking about his tithing.
No,
Yes?
sorry.
Oh, go on.
It says, a part of this income is to be devoted to the poor.
To the poor, yeah.
And a large portion to be applied to the cause of God. But I thought you give your tithes and you give your offerings.
Yeah, you do. You
But it says, and a large portion. What
Well,
does it mean there?
a large portion will be. I mean, in this obligation, tithe is standard. Okay, you got to pay the tithe.
Yeah.
And then when she talks about the poor, the thing is with today, you've got welfare, you've got benefit system. So you have poor people, but not like poor like in those days. So in her time, you didn't have a welfare social system. All right, if you didn't have money, you starved. Here, if you haven't got work or a job, you get benefits. Okay, you get housing benefits. But in my experience, what I find is that, like, what would class as poor people who are not earning, okay, people on benefits, I look at their lifestyle. First up, I look at their mobile phone, right? Look at the mobile phone they have, the package they have, okay? Nearly everyone, a lot of people who are on benefits, I'm not necessarily talking about Adventists, they have Sky TV. How much is Sky TV? £30–40 a month subscription. Now, if you're so poor, how can you afford £30–40 Sky? What's on your normal 5 channels you get on TV? No, they have to have the Sky Sports and all those things. So, in other words, many people are poor because they make themselves poor. All right. In other words, even when you're on benefits, you can save money. All right. So when she's talking about giving to the poor, you didn't have a welfare system there.
No, but they are still poor people around that who give it to.
My credit score says I'm poorer than the poor in the town where I live.
Well, how do you define poor, right?
For me, I would define poor by especially people in Africa living out in the rural. I'm talking about Zimbabwe, living out in the rural areas. They don't get any.
Oh, yeah, I'm not talking about Africa.
Or even
Okay.
here in London.
Here in London,
yeah,
right?
there's some people who are struggling. I mean, London, sorry, the UK.
Okay, in the UK,
Yeah, there are some
question
people who are really
how?
struggling.
Why are they struggling for?
Well, some women have more than one child, and to be on benefits, it's not very easy to, looking after children, plus buying the food and clothes and everything. So they are struggling. That's why there's all these food banks. So people are struggling.
You know what? I look at people on benefits. How many cigarettes are they smoking? How often are they going to the pub?
Some
How
people
often are they
don't go
drinking?
to the pub.
No, I know some people don't. What I'm saying is even people who are poor, you can get by. All right, you can get by.
It's because they're all into illegal activities.
So then, Manjit, what does it mean then? It says, and a large portion to be applied to the cause of God.
Let's read the thing again. If we represent the character of Christ, every particle of selfishness must be expelled from the soul. In carrying forward the work he gave in our hands, it will be necessary for us to give every jot and tittle of our means that we can spare. Okay, first of all, let's make a note of that word, spare. All right.
So
If you cannot afford, to even live by your own means, right? Don't be giving to all the world in Africa and all the charitable causes, because what it's saying is spare. Once you've paid all these, don't think, oh, you know what, I'm going to skimp on my landlord, right, and I'm going to give a large sum to Africa. Okay. God does not expect that of you. God expects you sort your landlord out, you sort your mortgage, your bills, your loans, okay? You do any necessary travel you need to get to work and things like that. You get your food, okay? Your tithes out. What you've got, spare. Don't be thinking, oh, you know what, I'm going to give a load of money now to the cause, and God's going to, unless God has specifically asked you to do that, like with the widow's mite, alright? Don't expect to give what you haven't got and then think God's going to multiply it back, unless God has specifically asked you to do that. So,
the people who are in the congregation who have the means, and then there's been an appeal for means, it's those people that God is really appealing to, not the ones who usually make the sacrifice and they're not, can't spare it.
If they can't spare it, then don't spare it. All right. It's
What I'm saying
as simple as that.
Is usually God is making these appeals to the ones with the means, but the ones with the means mostly don't part with it.
But God is making the appeal to everyone, right? To everyone.
No, but
but listen,
only applies to those who can spare it.
But that's
those
not
with the means can
that's
spare
not your business.
Yeah,
right?
but he has to appeal a lot to them because they won't let it go.
No.
And the Spirit of Prophecy says to that group, we won't let it go.
The appeal goes to everyone, all right? And the issue is spare. If you don't have it spare, don't respond. And we're going to talk about that, because she talks about that every week, every month, we should be laying funds aside for a rainy day. Even if it's £2 a week, £3 a week, all right? In other words, what you're doing is you're putting money aside, okay, so that when you have an appeal, you know what, I've got £20 saved up. I'm going to use that for the appeal because it's spare. Don't be spending money that's not spare, and don't be worried about your neighbour. Don't be worried about if they don't do it, then that doesn't concern you.
I wasn't about the neighbour.
Okay.
I was about in the church.
That's what I'm talking about. Your neighbour. Your neighbour in church. It doesn't concern you, Richard. It doesn't concern any of us. If someone chooses to give or not choose to give, it's not our business, between them and God. And if there's a shortfall for the appeal, then that's God's problem, not your problem. So it's talking about of our means that we can spare. Poverty and distress in families will come to our knowledge, and afflicted and suffering ones will have to be relieved. We know very little of the human suffering that exists everywhere about us, but as we have opportunity, we should be ready to render immediate assistance to those who are under a severe pressure. Okay, things happen, trials come. We may have a financial crisis. I remember one time someone had a financial crisis. They had tax problems, and bailiffs were going to come on the door, and they were desperate, to cover it, and blame the account or whatever. Didn't allow for the tax bill, and they were going to get into severe trouble. Okay, so they needed like a bailout. So in those kind of situations, we should not get ourselves in those situations. We should always have our rainy day fund. Okay, always, without exception. Okay. The squandering of money in luxuries. All right. How do we define luxuries? Well, you're going to have to think about what's luxury for you. All right. But the squandering of money in luxuries deprives the poor of the means necessary to supply them with food and clothing. That which is spent for the gratification of pride in dress, in buildings, in furniture, and in decorations would relieve the distress of many wretched, suffering families. God's stewards are to minister to the needy. But again, in this day, let's just stick with here in UK, Europe, and America. We have a welfare system, and in that welfare system we get help with a housing benefit, we get help with weekly allowances and things like that. It's what we're going to do with that money that comes in. Are we going to squander it? Are we going to waste it? Okay, that's the issue. And sometimes I look at people who don't have much money. And I look at their car. I look at the smoking. Okay, those guys. And let's take SDAs. Okay, you know, I see some SDAs who are on benefits. They live like they're millionaires. And then I look at people who are not on benefits, and they live like they're paupers. All right. So if you're on benefits, you live within your means. Okay. And if you're not paying, you know, your creditors, well, where's your money gone? What have you spent your money on? Okay. You know when you go shopping, okay, when you go shopping, look at what's in the trolleys, in the food trolleys. And when you look at what's in the food trolley, you think, what are people spending their money on? Is it on wholesome food, or is it junk food? You know, how much money is spent on sweets, on sugary items, on alcohol, okay, on all the bad stuff, and then we wonder why we don't have much money at the end of the day. So you've got to then put God first, and then what's spare, okay, you can then use. Yeah, that's fine. No, so like, you know, give to Africa and things like that. And I would only give that to Africa, all right, to the brethren. I wouldn't just give my money to some aid charity thing that's going to go somewhere, all right. I would want to see
a registered charity.
Yeah, I would want to see my money go directly. I want to see my money go directly to the brethren in need. Yeah. And even now, the brethren on the message. Okay, I'm not going to be, so, you know, like someone like Adra, for example. What happens is you give money to Adra thinking, you know, it's God's work, and then what they do is they go out, and I'm not saying they don't do good work, but you can't talk about the message, you can't talk about God. It has to be neutral, and what you're doing is you're helping directly non-SDAs. And where's the link? A better system would be for Adra to give all the stuff to the Adventist churches, and the Adventist churches give the stuff out, but it doesn't work like so. So I'm not inclined to support that kind of thing, and neither am I. You know, I need some brother from the Caribbean needs to fly over, stuff like that. Well, why does he need to fly over? What's the purpose? What's the need? So for me, I want specifics, and if I don't know them, I want even more specifics. Okay, I want to know someone who I know knows them very well and knows the need, and if there's a need, okay, then that's fine. I'll base that on trust in the person that I know. An example that there's an example. There was one of the forums once. There was an appeal for an orphanage in Africa. Okay, I can't remember if it's Kenya or Uganda or something. Okay, so there was an appeal on that one. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I don't know anything about this particular charity, all right? So I contacted Elder Tab. I said, what do you know about this charity, this orphanage? He says, I don't know much about it, all right? I don't know much about it. I can't vouch whether they're legit, not legit, kosher or not kosher. Okay, so on that basis I thought, fine, I'm not going to give that support. If I'm going to support something, I'll say to Brother Blake, just keep the door closed since we've got the fire going. Just throw the cat out before. Is if I want to give money to something, I'll say, here Elder Tabo, it's gone outside. I'll say, here Elder Tabo, here's some money, please put it to where it's needed. Okay, and to me that's the safest way, because God has, you know, appointed certain people for districts, and if you feel that need, that's the way to do it. The squandering of money in luxuries deprives the poor of the means necessary to supply them with the food and clothing. That which is spent for the gratification of pride, dress in buildings and furniture, and in decorations would relieve the distress of many wretched, suffering families. God's stewards are to minister to the needy. And I'm going to qualify that when it talks about the needy, right? I'm going to qualify that to the household of faith.
She even says that in the Quran.
Yeah, because she talks about that our work is not like the work of the Salvation Army, right? Which is what this would imply. So she's saying if you see, the need, and I'm going to use it within the message, all right, then you help out where you have spare. God's remedy for selfish and covetousness. The giving that is the fruit of self-denial is a wonderful help to the giver. Spare. And when he's talking about self-denial, what do we mean by self-denial? What's self-denial?
When you go without to give someone else.
You're what, Richard?
Going without.
You're going without to give to someone else. Okay? So when you think about self-denial, okay, these things. This is not self-denial. Alright? Do not think by withholding here on your creditors, that's self-denial. So you're like, I'm not going to pay my bills here, but I'm going to give to charity. That is not self-denial. Self-denial is here. Okay? And here. Okay? That's self-denial. So the giving that is the fruit of self-denial is a wonderful help to the giver. It imparts an education that enables us more fully to comprehend the work of Him who went about doing good, relieving the suffering and supplying the needs of the destitute. Constant self-denying benevolence is God's remedy for the cankering sins of selfishness and covetousness. God has arranged systematic benevolence to sustain His cause and relieve the necessities of the suffering and needy. So we're talking here about tithe. He has ordained that giving should become a habit, that it may counteract the dangerous and deceitful sins of covetousness. Continual giving starves covetousness to death. Systematic benevolence is designed in the order of God to tear away treasures from the covetous as fast as they are gained, and to consecrate them to the Lord to whom they belong. The constant practice of God's plan of systematic benevolence weakens covetousness and strengthens benevolence. If riches increase, men, even those professing godliness, set their hearts upon them, and the more they have, the less they give to the treasury of the Lord. Thus riches make men selfish, and hoarding feeds covetousness, and these evils strengthened by active exercise. God knows our danger, and has hedged us about with means to prevent our own ruin. He requires the constant exercise of benevolence, that the force of habit in good works may break the force of habit in an opposite direction.
So, can you elaborate a little bit about hoarding?
Having like £200,000 in the bank, that's hoarding. Okay? Having £1,000 in the bank is not necessarily hoarding. That's rainy day or tough times or whatever you're saving for. You might be saving for something. You might be saving for a deposit for your house. Okay, that's not hoarding. You might be saving for your car. That's not hoarding.
So
okay?
Is this hoarding only to do with money? It's not to do with things like books?
I knew that's what you were thinking.
Hoarding books. Well, you know, if you've got books, how much money? You know, books cost money. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are you thinking about hoarding books? Well, you want some books.
To sell.
Oh no, I've got lots.
Whether to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're hoarding books. Yeah. Go door to door.
Huh?
Let's go and sell them door to door. Your books. What books you talking
I'm
about?
just talking about books that I have. I mean, I've given so many away,
Yeah.
but I've still got quite a lot.
Okay. And if you don't use them, go and send them to Africa.
She did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Cost you a fortune.
Yeah. It probably costs you more to send it than the books are worth. Hoarding. When she's talking about hoarding here, it's generally like wealth, goods, means. Okay, so
those people who bow down at the saints' feet with their rooms full of gold and rooms full of paper cash, pleading for the word of things. It's talking about that.
So hoarding, okay, is not necessarily the same as savings. Okay, hoarding is where you're building, and you're trying to keep it all for yourself. So.
But don't even use it for the self. It says that just hoard it and hoard it and hoard it.
Yeah. And you know what? We're all guilty. I don't know about you, but let's say someone gives you like a kind of a gift. Like every year, my younger brother will send us like a box of carob chocolate. Okay, and I make it last so long it goes out of date and it becomes stale and horrible. All right, and it's like, oh, if I should have just enjoyed it in the first couple of months. Or you get like a bottle of grape juice or something, and then you realise like 3 years later it hasn't been used, and it kind of loses its kind of flavour. All right, and you think, well, I should just had it, but what you do, you kind of hoard it, okay, and then it ends up being spoiled. So little things like that. Okay, I don't know how we're feeling. It's about 10 to 9 now, and
10 to 9.
yeah. So I'm quite happy. If we wanna close, and then we'll pick up again tomorrow. So we've actually finished chapter 60, and then we'll pick up chapter 61 tomorrow. So if you've got any questions, anyone? Any thoughts?
Well, I think I could get the summer out of these, because if it don't rain, and then get my full wear and tear out of them.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. Okay, if we don't have any thoughts or questions.
Oh, I have thoughts. Oh. I honestly didn't realize a lot of these things, and I think I'm guilty quite a few points here. So it's been really good. I didn't. It's just like an eye opener.
Make sure we share the videos when they're all done. And I'm sorry not everyone's here, but you know what? Whoever's here, God's will was that we're here. And those that are not here, okay, they're willfully chosen for whatever reason not to be here, and they're going to lose out the blessing. And I think something like this, many people have asked, for some programs on finance, and you know what? I just said to, Lynn and Natasha, we're going to just do it. And we just set the date, set the post up, and we just did it. Okay, and to be honest, I got more material than we're going to fit this weekend. So I think this is going to be like a part 1 weekend, because there's so much more, to cover and look at.
So on things like when you get car insurance and that, and they spread it out over 10 months for the year, and you have got an income and you're able to pay that off quicker, you definitely suggest paying that off quicker than still keeping it spread out for the year.
Not necessarily, no. I've not said that.
Because that's how it happens, isn't it? Because you spread it out. It's like, so they do a spread out of payment for one thing, and then a spread out thing on the other thing.
Right.
And then you've still got income coming in, but you're letting these bills build up instead of just paying them as soon as you can.
Okay, but here's a problem. All right. I always think of something it's called OPM, other people's money. If an insurance company or any credit company is giving you 10 months of free credit, all right. So
it's not free, though, is it? They always add something on.
Well, if they're going to add something on, it's costing you. So you're better off paying it all up front. All right. So there's 2 ways to look at it. If someone's offering me, if someone is offering me 10 months free credit. In other words, you pay the bill over 10 months, okay, for free credit. In my bank account, I get 2% interest in my bank account. So I thought, what I'll do, right? Rather than give all the money up front, I'll pay over the 10 months. I'm going to get 2% interest on my money in the bank, all right? However, what people tend to do is to say, oh, you know what? We'll spread this bill over the 10 months, and then we think, oh, we've got more money than I realise. And what we do is we spend in the earlier months money that belongs to future months, and that's the problem. In other words, if I don't trust myself, just pay the thing up front. All right. just pay the thing up front. If you can trust yourself and you know you can budget the money, okay, then do it over the 10 months. In fact, what you can do, you pay it over the 10 months, but you put the upfront money into a little savings account, and then you draw the savings account each month to pay.
Yeah, but with something like an insurance, if you haven't got all the money to pay the insurance in one go, then obviously you're going to take the deal that they offer you to spread it out.
Fine.
What I'm saying is, in the process of doing that, you've got your insurance, now you're on the road,
Yeah.
you're working,
Yeah.
getting an income in, pay it off, or just still keep it
No,
safe.
like I said, if you can't afford to pay up front, then you can't. If you can afford to pay up front, but you don't need to, then don't necessarily have to. Alright? It depends on how good you are in money management. I would take the 10 months free. If it's free credit, I'll take it.
Car insurance isn't free.
If it's not free credit,
just pay it off.
Pay it up front.
But if you can't pay it up,
if you can't pay up front, you bite the bullet and you spread the cost over the 10 months with it.
But they will let you pay it off though. If you've agreed for 10 months and then you get money coming in, you can still pay more.
Just pay more off,
so
you pay less interest. Yeah, do it. Okay? In other words, I don't want to be paying interest, I want to be making interest. So, if I'm getting free credit, I'll take the free credit, I'll get interest in my bank account, but I make sure I can pay it off my obligations. It's the same with my credit card. I'll use my credit card, okay, I get money back on my credit card by using it, but I'm only going to use my credit card if I know I can pay it off at the end of each month. Okay, that's this principle here. In fact, I'd be silly not to use my credit card, because every time I use my credit card, they pay me money back. Every time I use my credit card for the petrol station, they give me 3% back. Every time I go to the superstore, they give me 1% back. Anything I spend my credit card on, they give me 0.5% back. So for just using my card, I'm getting free money back. But where they sting you is if I don't pay that card at the end of the month, they whack up interest, and that's how they make the money. But if I pay that off at the end of each month, then I've actually made £10–15 for just using my card. And that's good stewardship. But what we do is, we rack it up into our credit card. Oh, you know what, I can't pay my credit card. And then you pay your monthly installments, and now you're in trouble. And if that's you, you're better off not using your credit card.
I don't even have a credit card, but the bank has offered me a £1,000 overdraft, which I don't want.
Did you cover what systematic benevolence was?
Okay, systematic benevolence at the time, they didn't really understand the tithing system. So what they said was, let's have a systematic benevolence where each week, each month, you put a regular amount in. And then she's talking about here with the poor. So what they would have is you'd have a systematic benevolence for instead of tithe, you have systematic benevolence to pay the ministers, you have systematic benevolence to pay the upkeep of the church and the offerings, and you have systematic benevolence for like a poverty fund. So she talks about how we should have a welfare fund. There was some discussion about this we had at church, and people were just totally taking things out of context. In other words, well, we've sinned by not having a welfare fund. Well, for a start, it's not a sin to not have a welfare fund. Okay, it's not a sin, it's a recommendation. The recommendation is have a welfare fund. When there's a need or emergency, then we can take it from the welfare fund. And that was during the time when you didn't have housing benefit, where you didn't have social security, where you didn't have food banks and those kind of things. Okay, we're living in a time here anyway in the West where we're in a welfare system. The need for a welfare fund is not so prominent. I'm not saying we don't have to have one, but it's not a sin not to have one, which was what people were kind of making the charge that, in that case. So systematic benevolence can be for anything. Here she was gearing it towards the poor and the needy. So
she's basically saying every family should put some money aside.
Yeah.
For systematic benevolence.
Yeah.
So you could link it to a self-denial box.
Yeah, she talks about self-denial box. So you know what? I'm not going to go out, alright? I've got spare money. I'm going to put it in the self-denial box. So I've denied it, okay? I remember when I was an early Adventist, they said, oh, you know what, children? Don't use your pocket money to buy the sweets. Put it in the self-denial. I mean, forget about, you shouldn't even be buying the sweets, alright? But the thing is, you encourage people to deny themselves from buying things and put it into the self-denial.
Yeah, not only
Okay.
that, but you get yourself into the habit of doing it, is what she talks about.
Yeah.
As well.
Just find this funny because there's this lady who I've been watching, and she says that if she was urgent to buy something like a bag or shoe and she didn't do it, she would put that money to a side, and later on she was doing that for many months, and she was able to pay her mortgage. She was able to add extra to her mortgage, and it was a lot of money. So
Yeah.
yeah.
By just chipping away, all right, you'd be amazed what can happen over a number of years. And this is exactly what happened with business Emma and I had. We had a office, and we had a building, and I bought the office completely 100% finance, all right. So I had 100% mortgage on that, based on collateral on my house. I thought, okay, it's fine. The rent from the upstairs flat, okay, the rent from the upstairs flat was pretty much paying for the mortgage, okay. And so what I did was every day, every week, you know what? I know how much I need for, to pay all my bills. I know how much I need for food. So it would be like a day. Oh, you know what? I did really well today. I made an extra £300 today. It was a good day. I'd take that £300 and I'd just send it straight to my mortgage, because my mortgage account was with the same bank as my business banking. So it was all internet banking, and it was there. So what I do is I get that and I just send it to my mortgage. And I just every day, you know what? I made £5. I just sent £5 to the mortgage. £2, £5. In some days I'll do two. Some days it'll be like £20 in a day. I'll just send it to the mortgage. I just kept doing that. Okay? And after 4 years, just chipping it away, I paid the whole thing off, the whole mortgage off, in 4 years. Just chipping it away. Because you know what? If I've got £10 or £20 in my pocket, you'll just get wasted somewhere. But if I stick it in there, I've locked it in, I'm saving interest. So instead of paying interest over 20 years, okay, I paid interest only over 4 years, got the thing paid off, and I saved a ton of money on the interest. So just chipping away, you can do many things.
So, if someone's consistently in work and their account's always out of the overdraft, or they don't have an overdraft, it's better for them to get a credit card than it is a debit card, because you'll be getting more back as long as the payment.
I think for you, don't get a credit card, right?
Why is that? Like, if I'm getting money back, if I'm getting more
Because
money back, because I've only got the petrol bills.
Because you've got to be able to pay it off at the end of each month.
That's what I mean. So that's what I'm saying. So the money's going into the account. So it's
Yes.
still in the account.
Yes.
Okay. And alright, no overdraft or anything. So it's still in the account. I've still
Yes.
got the set bill, like the petrol bills and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So instead of paying it each time,
Yeah.
as long as it's in the account for
Yeah.
them to take at the end of the month, I'll be getting 15% back. How much did you say?
3%
3%
on your fuel. Yeah.
each month.
Yeah, and 1% back on your Tesco shopping, and 2% buying your shoes and clothes and stuff. But what I would do with certain people I'd recommend, I say, you know what, if you can use your credit card, so if you spend £30 on your credit
But
card,
they're all the same then, or they're all different? Or they're all different?
they're all different deals. But I would say to some people, if you spend 30 quid fuel on your credit card, just send 30 quid from your bank account to the credit card, so that at the end of the month, your whole credit card's paid
You've
off
got
anyway.
to have money in the account to use your credit card. You've got to always have it. You've got to have like at least £500 in there. If you've got £400 of bills at the end of the month, you've got to have at least £500.
You've got to make sure you got it to
You've
cover
got to
it,
at least have £500 in.
So I'd recommend probably...
And you'll get a little bit back.
I'd recommend in your case, you spent £30 on your credit card, just transfer £30 from your bank account into the credit card, so that it's all taken care of.
Money in the account for the
Well, it's going to be money in the account to use your debit card.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
That's what I'm saying.
So if you
it takes it out each time you use it. But it takes it out each time you use it, and I don't get 3% back.
It's not off topic. It's not off topic. It's within. It is within topic.
It's salad.
Yeah, it's alright.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just generalising. All right. The principle is, if it's spare, being a good steward. All right. Looking at ways you can save money, and it's amazing how you can just chip things away. Okay. that is still biblical principles without getting into the details of which bank and stuff to do. Okay, so okay, I don't think we're straight off topic. It's all relevant to stewardship and being good stewards and being faithful with our money. Carly, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Okay. Any final questions?
I thought you had to have a certain amount of money going to your account before you can get a credit card.
No. You have to have a certain amount of credit scoring to get a credit card. All right. And the problem we have as Adventists, right? We got really, really bad credit scores because we haven't looked after our finances. Okay.
Yeah, my point is that there's different schemes out there with debit card anyway, you know, so you don't need to go credit. You know, you get paid for doing things depending on what bank you're with.
Yeah.
So just look at what's got the best deals for you and what you can benefit from. There's loads of deals.
Some people they're not really good with cards.
Just credit cards.
Don't use them. But other people they can. All right. But
I think it's most important to have to focus on the quote about self-denial and what that means, because some of these things we're here in the West and we've got money to spend.
We don't know what self-denial is in the West.
Yeah, how
we
do
will
apply
do soon.
that? Yeah, how do we apply what self-denial means here? But when, like she says, every family should have a self-denial box where the children put the money that they would spend on candy, ice creams, gum, knickknacks, and in fact none of our children, they don't eat any of those things.
No.
They don't have any. So it's always like, well, how do we actually apply that practically? I think that's better.
instead of
time on Sabbath,
instead of going
talking about
Soy ice cream.
instead of going to the restaurant, you put it in the self-denial box, for example. Instead of going to
or if you don't go to restaurants,
or instead of going to a park, put it in the self-denial box. Instead of buying tofu, instead of buying, no, if it costs you £15 to get into the park, okay. Instead of getting tofu, you don't get tofu, you get cornmeal. Okay, that's the kind of stuff.
you don't buy
Polenta. Buy polenta.
or biscuits or crisps or
Yeah, bars,
things that
flapjacks,
you eat with a meal.
crisps.
Potatoes, nice, quality honey.
Yeah, there's lots of things. There's lots of things we can cut back on. Okay, jams, honeys. What honeys we buy. Okay, all those factors are things we can slice back on.
I know it's. I'm just speaking generally that Asians, they're very, very good with money. So is this like from a child they taught these things, or?
No,
Because, I mean,
not
you
necessarily.
see how-
I know lots of Asians are really bad with money.
But,
Gambling and everything.
No, but people are really, when you look at Asians, like the Jews, you know, they're also good in accounting and things like that. And the Asians are doing that. They like that too. And is it also because of the, you know, they tend to live with one another and then they save up money that way? Or, you know, like the bride, if you get married, you live with your father and your mother and the grandparents all in like one big house. And is that a way of saving?
That's a way of saving, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, so where would you have learned how to save? Is that from your father because your father did it? Or?
No, I think my father wasn't particularly good with money. My mother certainly wasn't good with money. I think I was born with it. It was in my blood. Ever since I can remember, it's like, I think I was like 6 or 7 when I opened my first savings account. When I was 5, I used to do like the post office savings thing. You know, ever since I can remember, I was into that. But both my parents, I would say particularly, both my parents were very liberal with their money. Okay, very generous, very liberal. I think my dad was always in overdraft, so I didn't think they were particularly good with money. My mother would definitely get herself into this situation, living beyond her means. My dad would have to kind of bail out, stuff like that. So I don't think I got it from my parents. I think it was just in my blood.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, probably from your grandparents or great-grandparents.
They do seem to work hard all hours, don't they, to get money together? And maybe there's a culture of helping each other out.
Yeah,
The expectation
culturally.
that families will work together.
Yeah. But that's a good idea that as a child, you can teach the child how to save money.
Yeah, you should, yeah.
Open up an account or something.
Open up an account, have a little piggy bank, put the money in, or self-denial box, all those kind of things. Okay, shall we? Any further questions?
When we have every support cut off, do they give us the money that's in the account, or they just rob us of it?
Yeah, you've lost it. Which is why let's make the best of it while we're on there. Let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the wise counsel you've given us. We pray, Lord, that you bless us. Help us, Lord, to redeem the time with our money and our life. And we pray, Lord, that you have mercy upon us and help us, Lord, to better ourselves. Is our prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen.